What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. We have ourselves a jam-packed episode today. The ACC is coming down to the wire, and we have ourselves an interesting scenario with the ACC, as it's not the standard ACC, as it is being divided into three different regions. Who are in these regions, and which team has the best chance at winning certain regions. Also, we have the SEC concluding its first round of play. Which teams surprised, and which teams emerged victorious? And then some interesting Big 12 results that happened last week. How did the top-tier contenders, Texas and Baylor, do? Did they stay undefeated, or were they dealt another loss in their division? Also, we have certain championship sites for the NCAA men's, women's, and beach volleyball sites. Where will all these NCAA men's and women's volleyball championships take place, along with the beach championship? And we also have big-time preview matchups between certain teams, such as teams from the ACC and the one team from the Sun Belt Conference. It's all that and more here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio. This is your host, Teran Rodriguez. We are on episode 60 of this podcast show / series / whatever you can call it. I can't believe it's been 60 episodes already. It feels like I just did the 50th episode special, but this isn't a 60th episode special. The next episode special won't be until the 100th episode special. And I'm hoping I can have a huge, big-time episode for that day, because the fact that I even got to 100 episodes despite everything that's been going on is quite amazing. So that's enough about that, though. So before we get on to the volleyball action, IE Sports Radio is actually sponsored. They are sponsored by a company called Another App Co. Yes, Another App Co. is the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio, and it has official apps that it highly recommends, such as Meme Me, which you can take a picture of yourself and you can transform yourself into a meme. So basically just take a selfie of yourself and then you'll eventually become a meme. Also, Another App Co. also sponsors Facefly or Face Flap. It's kind of like Flappy Bird almost, but it's just as fun. So definitely do check out those apps. Unfortunately, most of those apps recommended by Another App Co. are not available through Apple stores, so unfortunately that is not the case. But eventually they will come out. They will be coming out soon. I promise you. I really do swear on my life. I'm not lying to you. I promise. But definitely do check out Another App Co. located in Southern California, aka Corona. So definitely do check that out. Definitely check out Another App Co. and definitely check out all of Another App Co.'s recommended apps, and that is pretty much your sponsor out of the way. So now let's jump into the volleyball action. So for those of you that tuned in to Wellington Sports Radio on Friday, yours truly, myself, called the Pitt versus Notre Dame women's volleyball match. It was actually, I believe it was the first ever NCAA women's volleyball match that was called on Wellington Sports Radio. So, as Pierre told me, history is in the making. So, I'm glad to have been a part of history. But I'm definitely really happy I got to call that game. It was definitely a great game, and all I just needed to do was move SoCal Supreme Sports Show to tomorrow. And it was definitely worth almost the 3+ hours. So definitely some great stuff there. Notre Dame managed to win last Friday in 5 sets. They were actually down 2-0 in the match. So let's get into this recap of Pitt versus Notre Dame. So Notre Dame was actually actually came into the match without their star player, Charlie Niego. Unfortunately, she is out. I don't know the whereabouts of her. I don't know if it's an injury or if she has coronavirus or any of that. But she did not play for Notre Dame, which made a huge difference, as you all will be seeing that soon. So Notre Dame actually started off really strong. And taking the place of Charlie Niego was Caroline Muth, who was just a force at the service line with her jump serve. Her jump serve was like a freaking cannon, and if you're on serve receive, you better watch out for those serves. And she got the job done early, along with Aubrey Hamilton, the freshman outside hitter. Those two had to fill in for Charlie Niego, as Notre Dame took themselves an early lead. I believe they led by as many as 4, if not 5 early on. And then Pitt came back by the arm of Kayla Lund. She was just willing her team to victory. She just could not be stopped. Chinaza Day also had some good swings, and they also got some good swings in the middle from Chiamaka Nwokolo. So eventually Pitt got their act together, and they took the first set 25-22. It also didn't help that Notre Dame had 19 hitting errors in that first set alone. I was very astounded by that. I just couldn't believe it. Like, you cannot win games with 19 hitting errors in the first set. So I believe that was up there. I believe they had like 22 after set 2, which Pitt pretty much just dominated in. Pitt was just took the lead and never looked back. There were no ties and there were no lead changes. Pitt was just on one in set number 2, and Kayla Lund was just doing her thing, and it was just a lot of miscommunication. And eventually Pitt took the second set 25-17, and everyone was thinking, oh, this is going to be an upset. And once again, this whole thing keeps popping up. So if you heard that a little notification, my apologies, but that seems to always happen whenever I go live. So anyway, Pitt down 0-2. Their backs are against the wall. They don't have their star outside hitter Charlie Niego. It's time to dig deep, and that's no pun intended, as Caroline Muth just kept on swinging for the fences. And keep in mind, she's only like 5'11". She looks like she's much taller than 5'11". She looks like she's like 6'3" or 6'5". Either way, she was just putting down kill after kill. Aubrey Hamilton kept doing her thing. Hattie Monson was just all over the place in terms of digging the ball. She made sure not a whole lot of balls would drop on to the ground through Pitt's kills. And then also Hannah Thompson came up with some timely blocks as well as freshman middle blocker Lindsey Miller. That's the thing about Notre Dame. They have a young team, but they do return a majority of their starters. Eventually, Notre Dame took the third set 25-21, and just like that, Notre Dame was still alive. In the fourth set, both Pitt and Notre Dame were just back and forth action. Notre Dame had a slight lead, but they led for the most part. Like, Pitt did have a couple of did have a moment where they tied the game, but then Notre Dame just took the lead back. But then another devastating moment happened for Notre Dame. Their senior middle blocker, Hannah Thompson, rolled her ankle, which did not look good, and she eventually could not finish the match. She had to be taken off, and then they had to throw sophomore middle blocker Sammy Lockwood into the match, which she actually managed to do good as well. She actually managed to fill in for her quite nicely. She didn't get a whole lot of looks, but she did enough to help Notre Dame take set 4, 25-20, and eventually force the fifth set. Now, the fifth set was just bananas. Notre Dame led early on. I think they led 5-3, and then Pitt eventually took the lead and led 7-5, forcing Notre Dame into a timeout. And then it was just back and forth action. I believe Pitt led 11-8 at one point, and then Notre Dame just suddenly woke up, and then eventually they took the lead at 13-12 off of a kill from Aubrey Hamilton, and then a kill from Sabrina Starks in the middle helped knot the score at 13-13. On that kill, there was just a miscommunication from the setter Zoe Nunez and the libero Hattie Monson of Notre Dame. And then at that point, Notre Dame was down to just one timeout, and they kind of took it. I kind of questioned why Notre Dame took a timeout in the early stages of set 5. You normally want to take timeout when you're down like 3 or more, in my opinion, in set 5 at least. Like I think Mike Johnson took the timeout a little too early, in my honest opinion. So, but at that moment, Notre Dame and Pitt were all out of timeouts, and it was still 13-13. Remember, you have to, in order to win the match in 5 sets, in a 5th set, you have to make it to 15. So whoever scores 2 consecutive points wins. So eventually Caroline Muth got the kill, put Notre Dame up 14-13, and then she actually got the serve for match point. And then to the dismay of all Notre Dame fans, she served it into the net. And that's the downside of having a powerful jump serve such as Caroline Muth's. It'll, more times than not, either go into the net, or it'll serve long out of bounds, or all of the above. So anyway, Pitt made Notre Dame pay for that service error as Kayla Lund, the star of Pitt, slammed down a kill, her 22nd kill of the match, and just like that was match point Pitt. And then Kayla Lund tried to put the match away again, and she actually hit it out. It looked like there was no touch, and Pitt coach Dan Fisher challenged the call. He challenged the ruling, but unfortunately there was no touch. There was no decisive evidence to reverse the call, so it was 15-15 at that point. And then Hattie Monson serves for Notre Dame, and then Pitt goes to you-know-who, Kayla Lund, who unfortunately misses out of bounds again. This time she hit it wide right, which she took a big swing in. So I'm really surprised. I'm really impressed. I was really impressed with how Notre Dame just... They didn't get played on the block. They didn't go for her block because they know how powerful of a hitter Kayla Lund is. And the fact that they didn't go for not 1 but 2 of her kills was quite amazing. So quite amazing stuff right there. As now Notre Dame had match point again, leading 16-15, and then Hattie Monson served, and then Pitt set up you-know-who, Kayla Lund, and then she was stopped at the net by Lindsay Miller and Sydney Bent, and that was the match. I kind of was surprised with how Pitt went to Kayla Lund a third time. Normally Pitt would not go to their... Normally, if you're a volleyball team, you don't want to go to the same hitters over and over again, especially in a 5th set match facing match point and your best outside hitter hit the ball out twice. But I give props to Kayla Lund for going bold on trying to get the kill. Unfortunately, she was just met at the net by Sydney Bent and Lindsay Miller, and that was the match. And unfortunately for Pitt, that was how it ended. I felt bad for Kayla Lund because you hit the ball. You had 3 hitting errors, and one of which was blocked, which gave Notre Dame the match. Which she obviously probably beat herself up, but a player is not defined by those type of moments. Like, depending on what happens, honestly, like that doesn't define her as a player. Like, obviously Pitt's going to set her the ball because she's had a big game. She had 22 kills. Unfortunately, she just couldn't come up with that 23rd kill to like give Pitt the match or keep the match going. So it was tough. To me, I think Pitt should have set Chiamaka Nwokolo or Chinaza Day, because those two had solid games as well. So looking at the stats for Notre Dame, Aubrey Hamilton and Caroline Muth both had 17 kills. Their hitting errors were high and their hitting percentages were low, but that's going to be a running theme for this match. Sydney Bent also had 9 kills. She did have 7 hitting errors for a hitting percentage of only 71. Lindsay Miller had 6 kills and only 1 hitting error for a hitting percentage of 312. Hannah Thompson, before she went out, had 5 kills and only 3 errors. And keep in mind, Hannah Thompson isn't that tall. She's only 5'9", but she jumps up pretty high, and she's a vocal leader. So losing her was big, but it turned out that wasn't all that big. So assist-wise, Zoe Nunez led the Notre Dame assist department as she had 47 assists. She also had 9 digs as well. And now in terms of digs, whoo, Nelly. In terms of digs, Hattie Monson had 23 digs, while Nancy Kane, the serving specialist, and Kiara Schmidt each had 12 digs. That was huge right there. Having that many digs was quite astounding for Notre Dame. They were just all over the place when it came to saving the ball, especially in the fifth set. Hattie Monson was just digging all kinds of digs from Kayla Lund, Nuakolo, and Day. Like, it was just amazing. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, it was just astounding. I've never seen, like, a freshman like that shouldn't be playing at that high of a level. So I do got to give her kudos right there. So, and then also Caroline Muth had 17 digs. She also had 4 service aces, and she also had 6 blocks. So she was flirting with a triple-double right there. So honestly, that's some good stuff right there from Notre Dame. I was very impressed. So as for Pitt, they were led by Kayla Lund, who had 22 kills. The big elephant in the room was her 12 hitting errors, most of which, I think 3 of which definitely came in the latter part of set 5. And again, a talented player like that has to go for the kill. Like, obviously, that it's not what she wanted, but she did all that she could to keep Pitt in the game. And then she also had a hitting percentage of 161. Chinaza Day had 15 kills, 7 hitting errors, and 44 swings for a hitting percentage of 182. Chiamaka Nuakolo had 10 kills, only 1 hitting error in 20 attempts for a hitting percentage of 450. That is who they probably should have gone with, because honestly, I think Notre Dame was having problems stopping the middle blocker position. Not just Nuakolo, also Sabrina Starks as well. And Starks had 5 kills, while Zoe Faki had 6 kills, and Valeria Vasquez Gomez had 9 kills and only 1 hitting error, which is pretty solid. Assists-wise, Pitt ran their 6-2 offense with Kylie Levers, who had 33 assists, and Lexus Akio, who had 26 assists, which was some good stuff. Dig-wise, Kayla Lund led the team in digs with 16, along with Mariha Popovic, who also had 16 digs. Valeria Vasquez Gomez also chipped in 15 digs and got 10 digs from Kylie Levers. So that was some good stuff right there. Service aces, Pitt only had 2 service aces. Now, hitting percentages were quite astounding. Pitt hit 193, which I'm surprised they hit 193, but they still lost. Now, Notre Dame hit 155 for the match, but they had fewer hitting errors, which is also quite astounding as well. So, what Notre Dame lacked in terms of a hitting percentage, they made up for in just a little fewer errors. In terms of digs, Notre Dame won that department 84-83. Not too far off. And then the blocks were the big key difference between both teams. Notre Dame had 16 blocks while Pitt had 11.5. You're going to win more games than not when you're blocking the ball a lot. And it was just an astounding match. It was 2 hours and 46 minutes. There were 10 ties in set 5 and 5 lead changes. Set 1 also had 10 ties as well. So that was some good stuff right there. Great high-level volleyball. That's what you should expect in the ACC. So now let's go to Sunday's matchup between Pitt and Notre Dame. Now, if Notre Dame if Notre Dame had won this match, they would pretty much be on track to finishing first in the ACC North, which I'll be talking about the ACC regional conferences as well. But if Pitt wins, Pitt will have won this matchup. They will still be in contention for the ACC North title race. So the first set belonged to Notre Dame. They won a tight set, 25-23. But then that woke Pitt up as they took the second set, 25-19. Third set was all Pitt for the most part, despite them not ever trailing and Pitt not having Pitt not being tied with Notre Dame at all. They took the third set, 25-23. And in the fourth set, there were 5 ties, but Pitt led all the way as they took the fourth set 25-17. Impressive upset victory for Pitt. Unfortunately, I didn't call that game because, unfortunately, it wasn't on prime time. That's going to be another topic I'm going to be talking about. So in the second match between Pitt and Notre Dame, Pitt was led by Kayla Lund, who had 15 kills. Unfortunately, she had 9 hitting errors and 51 swings for a hitting percentage of 118. But for the most part, she did really well. And then Chinaza Day had 14 kills, 4 hitting errors, and 33 swings for a hitting percentage of 303. Valeria Vasquez Gomez had 9 kills, only 4 hitting errors on 35 swings for a hitting percentage of 143. And Chiamaka Nwakolo was quiet as she only had 4 kills, 2 hitting errors, and only 12 swings. I guess they wanted to give Sabrina Starks more time at the middle blocker position, but she only had 4 kills, 1 hitting error, and 15 swings. So I guess Pitt went to the outside a lot more, which is kind of funny, which kind of contradicts my previous statement. But anyway, Lexis Akio led Pitt in terms of assists with 26, while Kylie Levers had 18 assists in their 6-2 offense. Dig-wise, Valeria Vasquez Gomez and Marija Popovich each had 21 digs. I was surprised how many digs Vasquez Gomez had. Lexis Akio had 16 digs to go along with her 26 assists. Kayla Lund had 17 digs, which was quite nice. And Kylie Levers only had 3 digs, which is kind of surprising because setters actually get more digs than not when it comes to women's volleyball. But I digress. So in terms of Notre Dame, who did not have Charlie Niego again, they were led by Caroline Muth, who had 14 kills. Unfortunately, Caroline Muth had 14 kills, but her hitting errors were just atrocious. She had 10 hitting errors on 59 swings for a hitting percentage of 68. That is not going to get the job done. Absolutely not. And this is kind of where you miss Charlie Niego, who is one of your returning players, and the fact that she wasn't there really made a big impact for the Fighting Irish. Aubrey Hamilton had 11 kills and 7 hitting errors and 44 swings for a hitting percentage of 91. A lot of Notre Dame's players did not hit well. Sydney Bent had 9 kills, 5 hitting errors, and 32 attempts for a hitting percentage of 125. Hannah Thompson, who actually played despite suffering that injury on Friday, had 7 kills, 1 hitting error on 14 swings for a hitting percentage of 429. And then Lauren Wenzel got to see some action and had 2 kills, 3 hitting errors on 19 swings for a hitting percentage of 158. Assists, Zoe Nunez led that department with 43 assists. In terms of digs, they were led by Nancy Kane, who is not the libero. She's the serving specialist. She had 19 digs, while Hattie Monson had 17 digs. Zoe Nunez and Caroline Muth each had 11 digs to give themselves double-doubles, which is some good stuff right there. In terms of blocks, Pitt outblocked Notre Dame 19-13. Now that is how you're going to win games. If you outblock your opponent like that, they have no shot. They have little to no shot. Another department that Pitt pretty much dominated in was digs, as they led that department 86-74 against Notre Dame. So Pitt tweaked everything, and they made sure they did everything correctly this time, because Pitt knows they can't afford to lose another match to Notre Dame, because they still want to be in the hunt for the ACC championship crown, which I'll be talking about that in a little bit. So in terms of hitting percentages, both teams hit under 200. Pitt hit 163 while Notre Dame hit 126. That's kind of what you should be expecting with two high offensively powered octane teams right there. And don't forget that. In terms of service aces, Notre Dame led that category with 4, while Pitt had 2. The service errors were the most atrocious thing out there for Notre Dame. Notre Dame had 15 service errors. 15! You cannot win games missing 15 serves. Why? How could you miss 15 serves? I don't even think Notre Dame had that many missed serves in the first match. They only had 8 missed serves, while Pitt had 12 in the first match. So how are you going to miss 15 serves? Pitt only missed 4 serves. That is another way you're not going to win games. You cannot win games by having 15 service errors. You cannot win games by having low hitting percentages. You cannot win games by getting outblocked. You cannot win games by getting outdug by double digits. This was a different Notre Dame team. At the same time, however, Pitt has the heart of an ACC champion, and they proved themselves in this game. I was very impressed with how Pitt pulled off the win. Pitt is still in the hunt for the ACC Regional crown. As for Notre Dame, they drop into a first-place tie with Louisville. So now to explain myself on the ACC regions. So the ACC is divided into 3 regions based on the location of team. The ACC North, the ACC South, and the ACC Central. It's kind of like the NFL did it with their AFC West, AFC South, AFC North, and AFC East, as well as the MLB with their AL West, AL East, and AL Central. So I kind of liked this little adaptation right there. So the ACC North consists of Notre Dame, Louisville, Pitt, Syracuse, and Boston College. The ACC Central is consisted of Duke, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Virginia, and NC State. And then the ACC South is consisted of Georgia Tech, Miami, Clemson, Florida State, and Wake Forest. So I don't know how they're going to do it in terms of winning, of which team wins the conference. I really don't know what they're going to do. I would assume they'd be doing something later on in the season, because the volleyball in case you all are new to this, or in case for those that aren't in the loop, the NCAA women's volleyball season is going to take a little hiatus after November, and then it's going to restart in January, where every team from every conference is going to start playing, such as the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the Big West Conference, the Western Athletic Conference, the Mountain Sports Athletic Conference, etc., etc., the Ivy League, all that. So in terms of the ACC North, Notre Dame and Louisville are both tied for first place at 4-1, which is quite interesting. The interesting part, these two still have another match to play, which got postponed earlier in the season, which really sucks, because I really wanted to see that matchup. I'll be getting more into the ACC standings, regional standings a little later. Right now, that was some great volleyball that I saw between Pitt and Notre Dame. Let's move on to the Big 12, where we had ourselves another close matchup on Friday between number 1 Texas and number 13 Kansas State. Number 1 Texas survived against Kansas State, winning in 5 sets. Texas took the first set 25-19. Kansas State took the second set 25-21. Kansas State took the third set 25-20, and that had everyone with their hands above their heads saying, is Texas really going to lose? Are they really cursed? But then Texas took the fourth set 25-18, and then Texas dominated the fifth set 15-7, because they're Texas, and they're just that dominant. So, yeah. So, okay. One thing I also should mention about Kansas State and Texas and Pitt and Notre Dame was that these two games were on prime time. These two games were featured on ESPN2, which is really special because I am so happy ESPN put women's volleyball or NCAA volleyball on prime time. With all that's going on with college football, heck, some high school football going on, and then obviously the NFL going on and the World Series going on. I'm glad to see ESPN put something that's not mainstream. So I gotta give them a round of applause. So yeah, that was some good stuff from ESPN2. Putting both Pitt and Notre Dame and Kansas State and Texas on prime time. I think that's what they should be doing with more volleyball matches. Not just for the NCAA women's volleyball aspects of it, but for the NCAA men's volleyball side as well. And heck, maybe even some NCAA beach volleyball too. So I really hope they do that. I'd be excited if that happened, but we'll see, because ESPN is too mainstream. Unfortunately, it's just mainly LeBron James, Patrick Mahomes. Who's the GOAT between MJ, LeBron, and Kobe? The Astros cheated. No offense, Astros fans, and all that other stuff. So, and the fact that NCAA women's volleyball also had to compete with the World Series also was a big thing as well. So I hope the viewership was a little high. I really want more flexed primetime NCAA women's volleyball matches. Not just for the NCAA tournament, not just for the NCAA championship, but for every match. Please give us some more primetime NCAA volleyball matches, because it's kind of tough to have professional volleyball unless you have like ESPN volleyball or whatnot. So either way, let's go back to the Kansas State and Texas matchup, where we had ourselves a big time matchup. Texas was led by Logan Eggleston. I probably pronounced her name incorrectly the previous time. It's actually pronounced Eggleston, not Exelton. Logan Eggleston had 20 kills, only 3 hitting errors, and 55 swings for a hitting percentage of .309. That's some impressive stuff right there. Skylar Fields also had 18 kills, only 3 hitting errors, and 42 swings for a hitting percentage of .358. And then Asia O'Neal had 14 kills, 4 hitting errors, and 25 swings for a hitting percentage of .400. That was some good stuff right there. Whenever those three have great nights, you're going to be getting a lot of you're probably going to be winning more times than not. And then Breon Butler had 9 kills, only 2 hitting errors, and 20 swings for a hitting percentage of .350. Once again, that's some great hitting percentages right there. As a team, Texas hit .321, and then they got 58 assists from Jenna Gabriel. Also got to make note that I believe it was Sydney Peterson got to see some action, and or was it Megan O'Brien? I think it was Morgan O'Brien got to see some action, and she actually registered 2 aces, and that really helped propel Texas when they were down 2-1 in the match against Kansas State. And then as a team, as a whole, Texas registered 8 service aces, but they did have 10 service errors, but it's whatever. In terms of digs, Morgan O'Brien's the libero. She had 17 digs, so it was Sydney Pearson who actually came in and gave some good energy for Texas. So Morgan O'Brien had 17 digs. Jenna Gabriel and Logan Eggleston each had 14 digs, while Sydney Peterson had 8 digs. So good stuff right there. And then Nalani Iosia had 8 digs as well. I'm probably mispronouncing her name, but the reason why I wanted to mention her is that I actually know because I saw her play in her prep days at Redondo Union High School back in California. And Redondo Union did win the CIF Southern Section Division I Girls Volleyball Championship this past fall. Not this fall, but fall of 2019. So that's good stuff right there. And like I said, as a whole, Texas hit .321, and that was impressive. And they also had at least 20. They had 22 blocks. They had 22 block assists and 1 solo block. Really good stuff right there. As for Kansas State, they were led by Aaliyah Carter. I think that's how her name is pronounced. Aaliyah Carter, who had 26 kills. She did have 9 hitting errors, but she did have 58 swings for a hitting percentage of .293. Keep in mind, Carter is a freshman. She's a freshman outside hitter, and she's putting up numbers like that. She is a baller. And also leading Kansas State in the loss was Bryn Carlson, who had 20 kills, 6 hitting errors, 57 swings for a hitting percentage of .246. Those two combined for 46 kills and had 46 out of Kansas State's 60 kills, which was very impressive, honestly. Holly Bond had chipped in 5 kills, while Shelby Martin had 4 kills as well. In terms of assists, Shelby Martin also had 49 assists. And in terms of digs, Mackenzie Morse had 21 digs, Shelby Martin had 12 digs, Jackie Smith and Drew Cuck had 11 digs. Surprisingly enough, Kansas State outdug Texas 76-67, which is quite impressive, but they lost. In terms of hitting percentage, that's kind of what hurt Kansas State, as Kansas State only hit 201 compared to Texas's 321. That's not going to help you win games, but you kind of got to give Kansas State a break. The fact that they even took Texas to 5 is quite astounding. I believe prior to that match, Texas had only lost two sets going into that match. One was to Oklahoma, and then the other was to, I want to say, Kansas? Checking the... No, it was to Oklahoma. The only other team that took a set off of Texas this year was Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's a pretty solid team as well. So, yeah. But that was some good stuff by Texas coming back and beating Kansas State. Spoiler alert, Texas stomped on Kansas State the second time. And they made some great adjustments. There's a reason why Texas is one of the favorites to win it all this year. And they're probably the favorite to win in the Big 12. So looking at Texas going forward, Texas plays Texas Tech this week. I can see them winning that matchup quite easily. Not to take anything away from Texas Tech, but they're 3-5 on the season, and they have to go to the University of Texas to win at Texas. So that's going to be tough to do. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. So I'm going to try to speed through these games a little faster. Baylor also had to go 5 with Texas Tech. Texas Tech took the first set quite nicely, 25-15. Baylor took set 2, 25-19. Then they took set 3, 25-16. Then Texas Tech took set 4, 25-21. And then Baylor just dominated in set 5 for the most part. Took the fifth set 15-9, and the match. And then also Baylor won the second match against Texas Tech in 3 sets on the day after. So in terms of Baylor, they were led by Yasonia Presley, who had 27 kills. She did have 10 hitting errors, but she took only 55 swings for a hitting percentage of 309. Other than the 10 hitting errors, that's pretty solid, honestly. Lauren Harrison also chipped in 21 kills and only had 8 hitting errors and 45 attempts for a hitting percentage of 289. Baylor also got a good game from Marquis Vandermark, who had 11 kills, 5 hitting errors, 26 attempts for a hitting percentage of 231. Solid night. Callie Williams had 57 assists, while in terms of defense, they were led by Chanel Bramschreiber, who had 22 digs, and then Emily Van Slate and Lauren Harrison. Actually, Callie Williams each had 10 assists. Yasonia Presley had 12 assists, and she was just recently named the Big 12 Player of the Year, or Player of the Week, so good stuff. And Pierre Moss, thank you for joining me in the chat room. Unfortunately, I did pass over the Notre Dame part, but I'll be going back to some ACC action a little later. So, as for Texas Tech in the loss, they were led by Brooke Kansas. Her last name is Kansas, and she plays for Texas Tech. What? Anyway, Brooke Kansas led Texas Tech in terms of kills with 14 kills, 3 hitting errors, and a hitting percentage of 423. She had 26 attempts. Pretty good stuff, despite the low number of hitting attempts. Samantha Sanders had 12 kills, 7 hitting errors, 45 swings for a measly hitting percentage of 111. Not so good stuff. Caddy Boyer had 9 kills, 3 hitting errors, 20 attempts for a hitting percentage of 300. And Allison Bloss had 7 kills, 1 hitting error, and 15 attempts for a hitting percentage of 400. In terms of assists, they were led by Alex Kirby, who had 39 assists. Surprisingly enough, Texas Tech had more service aces and had fewer service errors than Baylor, but they wound up losing, which is kind of surprising. And they even outblocked them too, so hello? And then the big department that hurt Texas was digs. They got outdug by Baylor. Emerson Solano had 13 digs, while Samantha Sanders had 12 digs of her own. No other player reached double digits in digs, as Baylor outdug Texas Tech 66-52, which was kind of surprising. That was the only other than the hitting percentage, which Baylor out-hit Texas Tech 280 to 211, I was kind of surprised Baylor struggled in serves and blocks, but excelled in defense and hitting percentage. So I guess you could lose one department, but still manage to win the game. But kudos to Texas Tech on pushing them to 5 sets. So let's jump on over to the SEC, as LSU and Texas A&M had to go 5 on Sunday. So the first matchup, Texas A&M swept away LSU, and I'm just going to say this. Big shout out to Texas A&M because their social media game is off the chain with those video clips. It's pretty good, and they even gave me a shout out. They were like, "Yes, sir. This person, who I don't remember is out here with spitting that fire with all those video clips." So anyway, LSU took the first set of the second match between LSU and Texas A&M, 25-23. Then Texas A&M took set 2, 25-22. LSU took a big set 3, 27-15. And then, surprisingly, LSU led 8-5 early on in set 4. And then Texas A&M decided to outscore LSU 17-7 en route to taking set 4, 25-15. And then the fifth set, it was actually closer than expected. LSU actually led, I believe they led 7-5 at one point, and then Texas A&M led 9-7, and then eventually they took the fifth set 15-10, which was kind of surprising. But not really, because Texas A&M is just that good. There's a reason why Texas A&M is number 7 in the NCAA volleyball polls. Surprisingly, the SEC doesn't have certain regions like the ACC does, but it is what it is. So anyway, for Texas A&M, they were led by Lauren Davis, who had 20 kills. Morgan Kristen had 14 kills, while Mallory Talbert had 12 kills. Talbert had 24 swings and only 2 hitting errors for a hitting percentage of .417. Davis had a hitting percentage of .349 and only 5 hitting errors, while Kristen had 6 hitting errors, 35 attempts for a hitting percentage of .229. Not bad. Also got to mention Triuna Rush, who had 9 kills, but she did have 6 errors and 26 attempts for a hitting percentage of .115. So that's something right there. Camille Connor had 49 assists and 7 kills, which was good stuff right there. Not bad for a setter. And she also chipped in 11 digs. In terms of digs, there were a lot of players that had double-digit digs, such as Camille Connor. Carly Basham led the team in digs with 21. Taylor Voss had 17 digs. Morgan Kristen had 12 digs, and Allison Fields had 10 digs as well. In terms of LSU, they were led by Taylor Bannister, who had 27 kills. She was swinging for the fences, as she had 71 attempts, but she had 14 hitting errors for a hitting percentage of .183. That was kind of what hurt her, and what hurt LSU. Samara Hill had 14 kills, and Allie Morris, Anita Onwusi, and Paige Flickinger each had 6 kills. Carly Rose had 45 assists, while in terms of digs, they were led by Paige Flickinger, who had 19 digs. Reagan Science-Uli had 14 digs, along with Samara Hill, who also had 14 digs. And then Taylor Bannister had 11 digs as well. So I tried to tell everyone that LSU was a good team. LSU returns a majority of its starters, but no one wanted to believe me, or hardly anyone wanted to believe me, so I was impressed by LSU making the adjustments in the second match. The problem was that they had to play on the road, and the fact that they had to play the second of a back-to-back. And they're playing on Sunday. I don't get why people are playing on Sunday. I guess that's to make up for the college volleyball, or the college football, but it's whatever. Alright, so this is the last match, and then we're actually going to go to a commercial break. So, Kentucky and Tennessee. Now, this was the match that didn't go 5, but I decided to highlight anyway. This was the second match between Kentucky and Tennessee. Just like the LSU Texas A&M matchup, Kentucky stomped on Tennessee. This matchup on Saturday between Tennessee and Kentucky went quite differently. First set, Tennessee took that set against Kentucky 26-24. And keep in mind, Tennessee was having a rough day as their football team lost to Kentucky. So I guess Tennessee wanted to take it out on Kentucky, which is kind of funny. And then Kentucky took the second set 25-23. It looked like Tennessee was actually going to take that second set, but they barely squeaked one out of there, which was kind of surprising, but not necessarily, just because Kentucky is the number 3 team in the NCAA, so that's some good stuff right there. So third set, Kentucky took another close set against Tennessee, winning that set 25-22, and then the fourth set was just so lopsided. All that momentum that Kentucky won in sets 2 and 3, they carried that over to set 4 and just dominated Tennessee 25-13. After the game, however, this was the funny part. Kentucky women's volleyball said, "Hey at UK volleyball," or University Kentucky or "Hey at UK football," or University Kentucky football. "We thought we'd follow your lead today." Basically, they knew about how Kentucky beat Tennessee in football by a lot to a little. So I kind of think that was throwing a little shade, but honestly, they were just telling the truth. I'm just saying, though. Yeah, but they accidentally tweeted, and then they put Kentucky 3, Tennessee 0 when it was supposed to be Kentucky 3, Tennessee 1. And then they made the correction and said, "Correction, 3-1 was the final score." Come on now. But I'm just kidding. We all make that mistake, but still. The one button is all the way up front, while the 0 is all the way in the back. So, as for Kentucky, they were led by Avery Skinner, who had 21 kills, 3 errors, and 46 attempts for a hitting percentage of .391. Solid numbers. Allie Stumler had 15 kills, 4 hitting errors, and 42 attempts for a hitting percentage of .262. Azani Teeler, Elise Goetzinger, and Reagan Rutherford each had 7 kills as well, while Azani had a hitting percentage of .323 on 15 attempts. That's some good stuff. Madison Lilly had 48 assists, and in terms of digs, Madison Lilly also had 15 digs, while Gabby Curry and Allie Stumler each had 13 digs, which is some good stuff right there. Despite having 12 service errors, they still won, compared to Tennessee's 6 service errors. So, I guess that's good stuff right there. They only had 2 service aces, which was also surprising. And they kind of got outblocked, but for the most part, but yeah. But yeah, in terms of Tennessee, they were led by Danielle Mahaffey, who had 17 kills, 7 hitting errors, and 40 attempts for a hitting percentage of .250. Raquel Perinar had 8 kills, 4 hitting errors, 23 attempts for a hitting percentage of .174. That was kind of it, though. The numbers were quite low. They only had 43 kills on the day. And as for Kentucky, they had 58. So, I don't know, man. And also a big shout to Marcus Losgreat, who is saying, "What up, no." Hey, what up to you too, Marcus? I'm looking forward to Gloves Off tonight. So as for assists, and I definitely appreciate you showing me the love, man. As you said, we're brothers, and I appreciate you doing that. So anyway, in terms of assists for Tennessee, Natalie Hayward had 24 assists, while Kaylee Keeble had 9 assists. In terms of digs, they were led by Madison Coulter, who had 17 digs. Danielle Mahaffey Lily Feltz had 12 digs, and that was pretty much it. And Natalie Hayward added 8 digs as well, so that's cool stuff. Tennessee only hit 101, while Kentucky hit 275. I don't mean to say this in a negative way, Tennessee, but you kind of caught the bug of your football counterparts. I'm not trying to say that they played bad. The first set they played good. The second set they played them tight. The third set they kind of played them tight, and then the fourth set was just every ounce of emotion just flew out the window for Tennessee. So unfortunately, that was how it ended for Kentucky and Tennessee. Kentucky went 2-0 against Tennessee this past weekend, and that was some good stuff right there. I'm not too surprised just because Kentucky is the number 3 team in the NCAA coaches poll, which is kind of cool, I guess, even though they haven't played too long. But that's pretty much the notable matchups for last weekend. Actually, got to take ourselves a quick commercial break. I know we spent a long time on these matchups, but we're going to take ourselves a quick break. When we come back, I'm actually going to preview some of these upcoming noteworthy matchups for this weekend's NCAA women's volleyball matchups. So you're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Lay down music,
Hey, what's up, BS3 sports fans? If you love listening to the BS3 Sports Show, check out the weekend wrap-up every Monday at 12:15 Central Time, 1:15 Eastern, recapping the weekend in sports like you never heard it before. Comedy, interactive chat room, it's a must-listen. Weekend wrap-up on Spreaker.com, part of the X Squad. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Drivers, start your engines. Auto racing takes many forms, from the close quarter contact of NASCAR
to the high-speed, high-risk atmosphere of IndyCar,
all the way to the pinnacle of technology with the Formula One World Championship.
No matter if you prefer the high banks of Daytona,
the concrete canyons of Long Beach,
or the flowing curves of the Nürburgring.
The international language of motorsports is simple. Go fast,
run hard,
and come home first.
So join us, myself, Darrell Kinsey Jr.,
Lolita Camello,
and Michael Ward,
on a world tour of all the best motorsports has to offer on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, only on your home for all. That is sports. IE Sports Radio.
And you can catch the Extra Mile and all of IE Sports Radio shows here on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all sorts of platforms. Tune in. I think we still have SoundCloud, not entirely sure. You name it. I also want to give a shout to our sponsor, another AppCo, another shout out. Once again, they have amazing apps for recommended use, such as the BS detector, the Me app, and also the Facefly app. It's kind of like Flappy, like I said, it's like Flappy Bird, but probably better. Also, so yeah, definitely do check out another AppCo. Some of those apps are not available for Apple, but they are available for Android. So if you are an Android user, go get yourself those apps from another AppCo. Anyway, so now let's get on to segment 2 of the show and talk about. I got a little explaining to do. So gather around, children. Uncle Teran here has got some explaining to do. Okay, so I didn't know, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't know the ACC was divided into 3 regions. The ACC North, the ACC South, and the ACC Central. I didn't know that. I thought the ACC was just clustered into one big group. Again, that is some smart thinking on the ACC's part. I don't think the Big 12's doing that. I don't think the Sun Belt Conference is doing that. I think they have 2 divisions, though, in terms of that conference, but I'm not entirely sure. But they're not doing that, and neither is the SEC. But if it is, then I'll probably explain myself in a future episode. But as for the ACC, I didn't know that this whole thing happened. If I had known this, I wouldn't have gone on my rant on Duke. I didn't know they regionalized the whole ACC, which that still is pretty flawed if you ask me. Like, what if Georgia Tech and, let's say, Notre Dame win their division? Who is the representative of that division? And then you also got to factor in Duke winning the ACC Central. Who's the representative of those 3? It still makes me wonder. So, darn COVID and your devious ways of derailing everything. Okay, so anyway, back to the ACC. So let's go over the standings in the ACC South, North, and Central. So let's start with the obvious one, the ACC South. Leading the ACC South is Georgia Tech, who is 5-1, while Miami is 5-3, Clemson is 1-1, Florida State is 1-3, and Wake Forest is 0-4. Here's some news about Florida State, however. Their last 3 games that they were supposed to be slated to have this week got postponed because of COVID-related things, and there's no makeup date for those matchups. So, unfortunately, their season has kind of been ended for now. They'll probably be back next calendar year. Again, the NCAA women's volleyball season continues through January. It's just going to take a little break after December, and yeah, I personally think that it's a bummer for Florida State that Corona got to them. But it is what it is. Like, they did all that they could. They wore masks during game. They pretty much outlawed a lot, if not any, supporters. And they just wanted to play some volleyball. It's not their fault that they didn't ask for this, unfortunately. So it is a bummer that Florida State won't be finishing off their season. But hey, at least they got one win. They beat Miami, which is probably going to prove to be very useful. So anyway, as for this week in terms of ACC volleyball, Georgia Tech plays Clemson, which I'll be previewing in a little bit. And here's the thing about Georgia Tech. If Georgia Tech wins out its games, they are the outright ACC South champion. If Georgia Tech splits their games, then Clemson still has a chance. Then Clemson still has a little bit of an inkling of a chance to win the ACC South. But if Georgia Tech loses out to Clemson, then Georgia Tech and Miami still have could possibly share the ACC title, depending on what happens with Clemson. But if Georgia Tech loses out, then that puts Clemson in the driver's seat to win the ACC South, which would be really cool if you ask me. So that's your scenario for the ACC South. But honestly, Georgia Tech is just so good. I don't see how Georgia Tech loses to Clemson. Clemson has only played 2 matches, and they're just coming off of a bye. Georgia Tech is also coming off a bye, but the difference is they've already played 6 matches, and they know what to expect. So I wouldn't be surprised if they knew how to take down Clemson, because they probably scouted that match. Maybe. Not sure. Food for thought. Okay, but that's the ACC South. Georgia Tech is on the verge of winning that conference, so I'm not overly surprised. If anything, I'll just keep you all updated through the set point account. So anyway, as for the ACC Central, now this is one of the more exciting conferences. So let's go down the top to bottom list in terms of the ACC Central standings. Duke leads the division at 4-1, while Georgia Tech is 3-1. North Carolina, who is idle, is at 4-2, while Virginia is at 0-3, and then North Carolina State is at 0-4. So the big time matchup is between Duke and Virginia Tech, which I'll be previewing that matchup in a little bit. So Duke and Virginia Tech. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one. So here's the thing about Duke and Virginia Tech. If Duke wins out, they pretty much control their destiny when it comes to winning the ACC Central, because with one game remaining against Virginia, which is near last place, they're pretty much in the driver's seat to win that division. However, if Virginia Tech wins out, then Virginia Tech is in the driver's seat with 2 games to go, as they play NC State next week. And NC State is at the bottom of the ACC Central. However, here's the interesting part. If Duke and Virginia Tech split their matchups, then North Carolina has a chance to win the ACC Central. North Carolina does not have any games this week, but next week they play Virginia. And if they win out, then we could see Duke, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina as tri-ACC Central champions, which would be the craziest thing out there. It's like, we're already dividing the league into, like, groups of 5. Now we gotta divide the champions into groups of 3. Like, I don't know what to say, except I want that to happen. I hope North Carolina does get I hope they get at least a share of the ACC title. I will say this, if Duke does win the outright ACC Central title, I will apologize, because I went on a rant saying that they were fraudulent and that they were frauds because of an easy schedule. Again, I didn't know that Duke was thrown into a different region. So that was completely my fault, and I will apologize to Duke, and I will kiss them on the foot. But I will be nice to Duke from here on out, because I did actually say one time that Duke were frauds, and then one guy who I guess was a Duke fan, he wasn't on Twitter, but it was, I put this in the chat room saying that, comparing Duke's volleyball team to Auburn's football team, saying that they were frauds, and he was like, that is completely not true. Don't you dare say that about Coach whoever it is about Duke. And I was like, uh-oh. I'm like, whoa, easy there, Tiger. But I digress on that. So that's the ACC Central. The ACC North. Now this is the exciting conference. Keep in mind we still don't have Notre Dame versus Louisville. I am so sad. When are we gonna get Louisville and Notre Dame? Like, there's one more week left of ACC play just to make up matches, and that is where we need Louisville and Notre Dame. Please make it happen. Anyway, for the ACC North is led by Notre Dame and Louisville, who each are 4-1. Pitt is 3-3. Syracuse is done with their season at 4-4, so they can't do anything to improve or go lower than where they're at. And then Boston College is bringing up the rear at 0-6. This week, Notre Dame plays at Boston College, and Louisville plays at Pitt. Here's the scenario. And you're going to be hearing a lot of, unless we get Louisville at Notre Dame. If Notre Dame wins out and then Louisville wins out, both teams, for the time being, are ACC North champions. Unless we get Notre Dame and Louisville. Part 2. Now, if Notre Dame wins out and then Louisville splits their matchup against Pitt, then for the time being, Notre Dame is the ACC North champion. Unless we get Notre Dame at Louisville Part 2. But if Notre Dame and Louisville both split their matchups, then they're both co-league champions of the ACC North, unless we get Notre Dame at Louisville Part 2. Now, if Notre Dame loses out and then Louisville splits, then Louisville is in first place, and for the time being, they are ACC North champions, unless, of course, we get Louisville or Notre Dame at Louisville Part 2, which, if that happens, then that's another can of worms open on its own. Now, here's the other interesting part. If Notre Dame loses out and then Pitt beats Louisville, then Pitt clinches at least a share of the ACC North Championship, unless we get Notre Dame at Louisville Part 2. And again, I really had to say that. And Dave says there's such thing as co-champs in volleyball, also high. Yes, there is, and there could be tri-co-league champions in terms of a conference, not in terms of an NCAA championship, in terms of a conference championship, not in terms of NCAA championship. So yeah. So here's the thing about Notre Dame. They have it easy playing Boston at Boston College. The only way Notre Dame doesn't win is if they forget how to play volleyball against Boston College. And Boston College is just some kind of bad. And thank you to Dave Friedman for popping in the chat room. Great show on the Kansas City Shuffle an hour ago. So, good stuff. So, as for Louisville at Pitt, Louisville gets the honor of playing at Pitt, which is going to be a tough matchup because Pitt is coming off of a big win at Notre Dame. And now that's perfect segue to preview my matchups for this week. So I'll try to go as fast as I can here because we have ourselves 50 minutes until the next show goes on. So let's go to the ACC Central between Virginia Tech and Duke. So Virginia Tech and Duke play each other this week. And also a shout out to Andrew Hagenboffer for joining in the chat room. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate that as well, Andrew. And like I said, thanks for joining. So now let's go to the preview between Duke and Virginia Tech. So here's the Virginia Tech players to watch for. Marissa Cherokio, who has 66 kills. Ashley Holman has 55 kills. Katie Smith leads the team in kills with 72. And then Angel Robinson has 27. In terms of assists, they actually run a 6-2 offense with two setters, with Talon Jackson, who has 110 assists, while Bree Fossima, unfortunately, my printer decided to screw up, and unfortunately, my printer decided to accidentally blur out her name. So Bree Fossima has 100 assists. So Virginia Tech does run a 6-2 offense, which is some good stuff right there, and that's pretty good. In terms of digs, they're led by Logan Mosley, who has 68 digs on the season. Katie Smith has 50 digs, and Ashley Holman has 47 digs. So that's some good stuff right there. As a team, Virginia Tech is hitting .223 while holding their opponents to only .163. Now, granted, they don't have any noteworthy conference wins, such as their only true conference standout win for Virginia Tech is beating North Carolina, and that's not overly impressive. I think that's good, but it's not something that says, hey, beating North Carolina is good in women's volleyball. Congratulations. That's not really, you're not going to write home about it. If they had beaten Pitt or someone else that was better, I would say that's a good thing. But I mean, the fact that Virginia Tech has gone through a lot, like they had to postpone their games due to COVID-19, and they still have a chance to win the ACC Central Championship, which is quite nice, or Conference Championship. So anyway, over to Duke, the team that I mistook as frauds. Duke is led by Peyton Schwantz, who has 58 kills. Aid Owakonrian has 51 kills. Gracie Johnson has 46 kills. Lily Cooper has 37 kills. And Lizzie Fleming has 31 kills. In terms of assists, they are led by Alex Springate, who has 92 assists, while Camille Nazor has 88 assists. And then I guess it's nice to say Mackenzie Cole has 26 assists, but that is cool that Duke also runs a 6-2 offense. That's some good stuff right there. I'm impressed. Good. So in terms of digs, they're led by Cole McKenzie, who has 100 digs on the season, which is pretty nice. Then Peyton Schwantz has 59 digs. Aid Conrian has 53 digs and all that. And Dave says kills. These folks are basically extras in John Wick's movies. Yes, that is the volleyball terminology called kills. It's basically spikes, but the terminology is called kills. Like, I can't, and some people even question that to this day. So there's that. So anyway, as for Virginia Tech and Duke, so this is Duke's chance to prove to me that they are conference champ. They can win the conference. If they lose one match to Virginia Tech, I don't think I'm gonna let them live this down. I'm not gonna beat them up for it or just nag them to death. But I will say this: this is your chance to prove that you are conference champions. Although the ACC Central is not that competitive, it's still winning something. So, yeah. So, as for Virginia Tech, the fact that this team had to postpone their matches and postpone their week due to COVID-19 symptoms and COVID-19 outbreak was unfortunate for them, but the fact that they still have a chance to win the ACC Central is quite astounding as well. They are coming off of a 2-game winning streak, having beaten their rival Virginia twice, and that's some good stuff right there. And that's good stuff, and they've got some good momentum riding high. And again, both of these teams have beaten North Carolina once, but at the same time, North Carolina also beat them. I think it was more impressive that North Carolina beat Duke as opposed to Virginia Tech, because at first we didn't have high expectations for Virginia Tech, and then unfortunately Virginia Tech pulled out the reverse card and said nope, and beat North Carolina, which is cool. So anyway, as for my prediction, this one's a tricky one because Virginia Tech is indeed a good team. They're definitely proving everyone that they can hang with some teams in the ACC. At the same time, Duke also has a lot to prove. So, and to me, Duke does have home court advantage, which kind of means something, but when it comes to this ACC Central, all these teams are closest to one another because it's a regional thing. So there's that. So anyway, as for my prediction of Duke and Virginia Tech, I'm going to be bold here. I'm going to say Virginia Tech wins the first match and then Duke wins the second match. I think Virginia Tech beats Duke in 4 sets and then Duke brings out the brooms and sweeps away Virginia Tech. And then we have ourselves the possibility of co-conference champions in the ACC Central. If that happens, then it'll be the greatest thing ever. I actually do want that to happen. Although it'll prompt a lot of crazy scenarios, I would really think that would be the funniest thing out there. Just to have a broken up conference into 3 regions have a tri-conference champion. Make it happen, Virginia Tech and Duke. Split your matchups. Don't disappoint me. So that's what I'm going with. I think Virginia Tech wins one match and then Duke wins the other, and then North Carolina squeals and jumps up and says, "Oh my God, we still have a chance to win the ACC Central. This is awesome." But they still have to actually win their matchups. And then looking at the volleyball docket for next week, Virginia Tech plays at NC State, which I can see them winning that match. And then North Carolina plays Virginia, which I can see them winning those matches. And then Duke finishes up their season at home against Virginia. And in case you're wondering, yes, Virginia is going to have to play 3 road games in the span of 2 carry the 3 times. Yes, Virginia is going to have to play 3 road games in 3 nights. They're going to have to play on, I believe they're playing on Thursday, Friday. Yeah, they're playing on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Or no, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Wow. Virginia is playing on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Duke and North Carolina are pretty close, considering they're both in North Carolina. So that's good stuff. At least Virginia doesn't have to go far, but this is kind of what happens when you have to reschedule everything. So it's tough, but at least they're actually getting to their matchups. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. So anyway, over to our next matchup from the ACC, our next noteworthy matchup of the ACC. It's Georgia Tech and Clemson. So hopefully Georgia Tech doesn't imitate their football team and get slacked by Clemson. But this is a different Georgia Tech team. Georgia Tech is led by Julia Bergman, who has 90 kills. Mariana Brambilla has 89 kills. Michaela Dowd has 66 kills. And then Aaron Moss has 36 kills. And then in terms of assists, Maddie McKissock has 203 assists. And then I guess it's also safe to say Isabella D'Amico has 44 assists. So that's good. That's good thing. That's good right there. Good stuff right there. So in terms of digs, they are led by Mariana Brambilla, who has 68 digs. Maddie Tippett has 65 digs. Julia Bergman has 67 digs. And Michaela Dowd has 50 digs, which is good stuff right there. Now, as for Clemson has only played 2 matches. That's an FYI right there. Clemson has only played 2 matches, while Georgia Tech has played a whopping 6. And Andrew says, I hate Clemson for football reasons, but I just hate them, period, now. Oh, my. Well, good on you. Good on you, Andrew. Okay, so as for Clemson, they are led by Kate Long, who has 23 kills. Cameron Hanna has 19 kills, while Soleil Thomas has 12 kills. Keep in mind, Clemson has only played 2 matches of the season, and they've only played 8 sets overall. One match they had to go 5, which they won against Miami, and then the other match they lost in 3 to Miami. So in terms of assists, they're led by Slavik McKenna, who has 70 assists, and no one else has anywhere closer than 5, so I won't really say anything else about that, but I digress. So in terms of digs, Maddie Howell has 33 digs. Kate Long and Cameron Hanna each have 16 digs. McKenna Slavik has 17 digs, and Crystal Childs has 10 digs. As a team, this team is hitting 924 for its hitting percentage, and then their opponent's hitting 955. So Andrew says, just for context, I live in Ohio, so I'm an Ohio State fan. Okay, that does make sense. I'm hoping that makes a lot of sense now. Is Ohio State volleyball good? Honestly, they kind of are. They play in. I hate to say this, Andrew, but Ohio State isn't playing right now, which unfortunately because of the Big 12 and all their shenanigans going on. But Ohio State does have a solid women's volleyball team. The only problem is that there's a lot of teams better than them, like Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Purdue. I think even Indiana's better, and then Michigan and then Michigan State. But I think Ohio State is kind of on the level. They're kind of like mid-tier. Unfortunately, that's kind of where they're the best they're at. So yeah, but I guess that actually does make sense that he's an Ohio State fan and he hopes for everything bad to happen to Clemson. So good stuff right there, Andrew. So as for Georgia Tech and Clemson, I know this isn't really the most noteworthy match, but I'm just gonna say that this one is notable because Clemson would still have a chance to win the ACC South if they run the table against Georgia Tech, and then it all depends on what their matchups are going to be like against Wake Forest. They will not get to play Florida State, which is a complete bummer because Florida State has not scheduled any makeup dates, which that really sucks. I really want Florida State, and I feel bad for their seniors. Like, I don't want them to have to wait till January just to get to play some more volleyball. So to me, this one's a no-brainer. Georgia Tech is going to win both matchups against Clemson. However, I can see one of those matches going 5. I think Clemson is a team that has some growl but they're pretty much all growl and no claws. So I think Georgia Tech is just going to sting the living daylights out of Clemson. So, and again, it's nothing against Clemson, but Georgia Tech just has so many options. You look at their options such as Julia Bergman, Mariana Brambilla, Michaela Dow. This is a team that has only lost one match all year, and that first match of the year kind of does not give Georgia Tech justice because they were on the road against Miami, and they ran into an impressive Miami team, which was drastically improved, and then Georgia Tech just kind of fell apart in that first match. They got off to a slow start, tried to get it together, and then they pretty much ran out of time in set 5. And Andrew says Big Ten is greater than SEC, which is greater than the ACC in any sport. Well, you're kind of not wrong. In terms of coaches' rankings, you're actually correct, considering Baylor and Texas, number 2 and number 1 respectively in the coaches poll, are definitely up on that upper echelon when it comes to being ranked. And I definitely think Baylor and Texas have the best shot at winning the NCAA championship, barring anything from Stanford and Wisconsin, of course. And I definitely think the SEC is better than the ACC. Last year when it came to the NCAA tournament, the ACC champion didn't even get past the round of 32, while Florida and Kentucky both got to the round of 16. So, and then the Big Ten, and then Texas disappointed and lost in the round of 16, and then Baylor made it all the way to the Final Four for the first time, as they were the number 1 seed, but unfortunately lost to a hot Wisconsin team, and that was kind of that for their NCAA championship hopes. But still a great, impressive season nonetheless. So that's pretty much that in terms of but back to Georgia Tech and Clemson, I pretty much see Georgia Tech beating Clemson both times. I hope one of those matchups can be competitive, but Georgia Tech has too much firepower. It's too much sauce, man. All right, now for our last matchup to note in the ACC. We have Pitt and Louisville. Pitt is trying to keep what little ACC North Conference championship they hope they have alive, while Louisville is trying to pretty much put themselves in the driver's seat when it comes to the ACC North champion. So Louisville, who did not play last week, they had a bye last week, is led by Iko Jones, who has 59 kills. Anna DeBeer has 48 kills. Claire Chahoussi has 45 kills. I'm probably butchering her name. And Anna Stevenson has 38 kills. In terms of assists, Tori Dilfer has 94 assists. Rachel DeMarcus has 81 assists. And no other player has 10 or more assists. And in terms of digs, they are led by Alexis Hamilton, who has 71 digs. And then Claire Chowsey has 31 digs, and Aiden Bartlett has 21 digs as well. And as a team, Louisville is hitting .285 while they're holding their opponents to a hitting percentage of .131. Granted, their two opponents they've beaten are Syracuse and Boston College, which is nothing really to write home about. Like, now Louisville is getting a true challenge in Pitt. So as for Pitt, currently right now, Pitt is led by Kayla Lund, the girl who needs no introduction, who has 98 kills. In terms of kills and of being second, Chinaza Day has 66 kills. Sabrina Starks has 32 kills. Chiamaza Nuakolo is someone who's been on the rise, who has 33 kills. And that's who Pitt needs to go to more often. In terms of assists, Pitt runs a 6-2 offense, and they're led by Alexis Akio, who has 121 assists, and Kylie Levers had 111 assists. Fun fact, last year, Kylie Levers actually was out for the majority of last year because of an injury, and now she actually took a red shirt last year, and now she's a redshirt senior, and now she is back to doing her thing on the volleyball court. And Dan Fisher's done a great job implementing a 6-2 offense. I really think that's impressive stuff right there. And the fact that he's going to put two two setters in is very noteworthy. And I know some teams have 6-2 have a 6-2 offense, but a high octane offense such as Pitt and having a 6-2 offense is quite impressive stuff right there. It's kind of like, and like I said, a 6-2 offense with having two setters is kind of like the New Orleans Saints having two quarterbacks with Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. So just compare it to that. So in terms of digs, they are led by Kayla Lund, the outside hitter, who has 51 digs. Mariha Popovich has 48 digs. Ashley Borowski has 38 digs, and Valeria Vasquez Gomez has 36 digs. In terms of hitting percentage, they're hitting .254 while holding their opponents to 196, which is pretty good. And that's pretty much that, and that's Pitt and Louisville right there with their stats. So when it comes to these two, this is a tough matchup to decide. Pitt has started off the season trying to find their identity, trying to shake off their tough loss from last year's NCAA tournament round of 32. And I think Pitt is starting to play a lot better. Obviously, that wasn't the case against Notre Dame, but they didn't lose badly to Notre Dame. They actually played good for the most part. The problem was that they had untimely errors in set 5, and they didn't put their foot on the throat in terms of set number 3 and 4. So that's kind of the thing right there. So overall, Pitt is a good team, but now they play the challenging Louisville. Now, before everyone does consider Louisville because of their 4-1 record, consider this. Louisville's wins are against Syracuse and Boston College. Those two teams have a combined record of 4-10. Before you all jump on the Louisville train, you kind of have to wonder, are Louisville's wins for real? And then you also got to remember that Louisville lost at home to Notre Dame. Unfortunately, the second match has yet to be played, and we don't know if it's going to be played or not, so you have to also make note of that too. So to me, this one is kind of tricky. Pitt's offense and their high-flying arm of Kayla Lund versus I wouldn't say unproven, but the team that has a lot to prove now, because Louisville is kind of got their help that they needed from Pitt. Now they got to take care of business. And even if Louisville does win out, they also got to hope out that Notre Dame loses out too. And vice versa. Like, even if Notre Dame does lose out, then Louisville has to do their part and win out too. So, and remember, we just still don't know if we're going to be getting Notre Dame at Louisville Part 2. So, to me, this is a tricky matchup, and it's tough to pick which one can win. But I'm going to say both teams split. I think Pitt wins the first match in 3, if not 4. I highly doubt it goes 5, but I think Pitt wins the first matchup in 3, and then Louisville wins the next matchup in 5. Here's the thing about Louisville. Louisville is going to have their backs against the wall when it comes to losing that first match against Pitt. And then they're going to wonder what just went wrong. They're going to have to make the adjustments. And then they're probably going to have to wonder if they can stop Kayla Lund, which is going to be easier said than done. Like, Notre Dame could barely stop Kayla Lund. And again, they didn't have their full team, especially in the latter part of set 4 and the whole set 5. So I think Louisville's a good team. The problem is they can only go as far as Iko Jones takes them. And Anna DeBeer does a great job of providing offensive support along with Claire Chowsey. But to me, I think Pitt is just a better, well-rounded team. And I think Pitt, to me, can win at least one matchup against Louisville. I don't think Louisville's a bad team, but I think Notre Dame exposed them in that first match. And Louisville has not beaten anyone worth noting. Like, it kind of speaks for itself. And Syracuse is not really a noteworthy win, just because Syracuse did beat Pitt twice, but that was the first 2 matches of the year for Pitt. And Pitt was on the road against Syracuse. So, you kind of have to give a little bit of a pass to Pitt, but honestly, I think Pitt has cleaned up its gameplay, and I think Pitt has proven themselves that they can be the champions of the ACC North region. So that's just my thing. I think Pitt and Louisville split their matchups, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pitt took both matchups, because Pitt is definitely a great team. And the thing about Pitt is that they have a lot to prove, considering they went 0-2 their opening season. And remember, this is a team that lost in the round of 32 last year. Louisville, on the other hand, made it all the way to, I believe they made it to the Final Four. Yeah, they did, or not the Final Four, the Elite Eight, where they upset number 2 seed Texas in 5 sets, which was very impressive if you ask me. And keep in mind, Louisville finished second in the ACC last year, and that was quite the bummer for Pitt, considering they lost in the round of 32, and then the second place team from the ACC made it all the way to the round of 8. So there's that. So one last matchup to preview, and then I'll send you all on your way, is from the Sun Belt Conference, and this one comes from the matchup between Coastal Carolina and Troy. So I don't give a whole lot of love to Coastal Carolina and Troy and all the Sun Belt Conference. I will say this, before I get into the matchup, I gotta give a shout to Texas State. They beat Louisiana not once, not twice, but 3 times. That is crazy stuff right there. Texas State was a little down this year. They did lose a lot of their players to graduation, and they're under a new head coach. But the fact that they showed a lot of grit and determination against Louisiana is absolutely amazing. And honestly, that's pretty darn impressive. Now Texas State is out in front of the Sun Belt Conference, and they're headed for the checkered flag. I think Coastal Carolina and Texas State play in different divisions when it comes to the Sun Belt Conference. This is natural, however, and eventually those two are going to be entered in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Just unlike all the other conferences going on, this is the only conference tournament that's going on. Like the ACC tournament doesn't have a conference tournament, which they should. The SEC doesn't have a conference tournament going on. They never have. And then the Big 12 doesn't have a conference tournament. I think it's a good idea, though. But I digress. Anyway, Coastal Carolina, they are led by Annette Nemeth, who has 72 kills. Ani Bozdeva has 57 kills. And then Jelena Prolik has 37 kills. Keep in mind, Coastal Carolina has only played 6 matches all year, so their numbers aren't overly high, but I digress. Brigida Petrenko has 146 assists, while I guess it's safe to say that I'm going to butcher her name, by the way. Marija Borčić has 48 assists as well. As for number of digs, they are led by Lena Perugini, who has 83 digs. Annette Nemeth has 36 digs, and Ani Bozdeva has 32 digs. That's good stuff right there. And as a team, Coastal Carolina is hitting 136, and they're holding their opponents to a 130 hitting percentage. So as for Troy is 4-1, as they are not too far off from perfection in the Sun Belt Conference. The Troy Trojans are led by Cheyenne Hayes, who has 79 kills. Julia Brooks has 60 kills, and Halston Hillier has 44 kills. In terms of assists, they are led by Amara Anderson, who has 226 assists. In terms of digs, they are led by Lacey Jeffcoat, who has 99 digs. And then second on their team in digs is Ashley, I'm going to butcher her name, Ashley Guenvier, who has 43 digs. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. And then Amara Anderson has 41 digs. And Cheyenne Hayes has 35 digs as well. In terms of hitting percentage, Troy is only hitting a hitting percentage of 185, while their opponents are hitting 120. So that hitting percentage is kind of questionable to me. So to me, this is a noteworthy matchup just because both these teams are like near the top of the Sun Belt Conference. However, I think what Coastal Carolina taught me last week was that they are one of the more complete teams. They beat South Alabama 3 times, and they only dropped one set of that match, which I don't expect them to sweep their opponent 3 times in a row. Like, I think South Alabama is a good team, but Coastal Carolina is just ahead of the curve. Granted, Coastal Carolina hasn't played too many opponents. They did not have a non-conference season, unlike South Alabama, but South Alabama lost all their non-conference games, so that kind of factors into Coastal Carolina beating South Alabama. So, to me, I think Coastal Carolina has taught me one thing, and they've taught me that they are not to be played around with. I think Coastal Carolina takes all 3 matchups against Troy. I hate to be that person to Troy, but I think Coastal Carolina is just too much ahead of the curve. I think they have proven themselves that they are one of the more premier teams in the Sun Belt Conference. Other than Texas State, which has owned the Sun Belt Conference for God knows how long, this Coastal Carolina team is for real, and I think this team will win all 3 matchups against Troy. I don't really see sweeps happening in all 3 matches. I may see it in 1, but to me, I think Coastal Carolina is going to win in at least 4 sets. If not one of their matches goes 5. But that's pretty much my take. And that's pretty much going to do it for that matchup, and that's going to pretty much do it for tonight. I'm glad everyone got to tune in. I appreciate you all tuning in the chat room. Thank you to Dave, Andrew, Marcus, and Pierre for joining me in the chat room and hearing me ramble about volleyball, because that's what this show is all about. And for 60 episodes too. I still can't believe it's been 60 episodes of Set Point. It's quite astounding, honestly, because I think the fact that I'm still doing this podcast or this show for this long is quite amazing. Like, there was a longer running volleyball podcast that just recently went off the air, I think in last February, which they had an 11-year run, which puts this show to shame. But that really was a sad thing to see when it came to one of the longer running podcasts going off the air. Actually, before we sign off, there's one more thing that I gotta. There's one more thing I do gotta mention then I gotta sign off. So, that is the NCAA volleyball sites, and the sites for the beach volleyball championships have been announced. 2023 and all the way up until 2024 are the NCAA beach volleyball championships will be held in Gulf Shores, Alabama, which is cool. And then in 2025 and 2026, the NCAA women's volleyball championships will be held in not Gulf Shores, Alabama, but can I get a drum roll, please? The NCAA beach volleyball championships will be held in Huntington Beach. I couldn't believe that when I first saw it. That definitely deserves the applause button. So yeah, I couldn't believe that. They're going to have... The thing about that is, I know there isn't a Huntington Beach University, or the University of Huntington Beach, but the host school for that will be Long Beach State, because that's the closest thing to Huntington Beach. And I guess you could have probably said UC Irvine, but Long Beach is definitely closer in terms of geographical terms. So that's really cool that the NCAA beach volleyball championship is going to be held in Huntington Beach. And that's pretty much my backyard. And if I do continue to live in Orange County until 2025 and 2026. That's going to be huge because I want to go to that. I would love to go to that. And I think that would be super duper awesome. Now, in terms of the NCAA Men's Volleyball Championships, 2023, the NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship is going to be held at Fairfax, Virginia, and George Mason is going to be the host school. 2024 is going to be held at Long Beach, California. Okay, it's not that special. It's only special to me, but I'll probably be long gone by then. Then 2025, it's going to be held in Columbus, Ohio, and the host school will be The Ohio State University. And I like how it says, it literally says on the NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship, it's the host school of Columbus, Ohio, is going to be The Ohio State University. They really put the Ohio State University instead of just putting Ohio State University. That's good stuff right there. So good stuff right there. And then in 2026, the NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship is going to be held in Los Angeles, California, which is really cool. And UCLA is going to be the host school. So good stuff right there. Now, as for the NCAA Women's Volleyball Indoor Championships, 2022 is going to be hosted in Omaha, Nebraska, and the University of Nebraska will be the host of that championship as the host school. In terms of 2023, the NCAA Division I Women's Volleyball Indoor Championship will be held in Tampa, Florida, and the host school will be University of South Florida, which unfortunately it's not going to be hosted by Florida State, but it is what it is. Then in 2024, the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship is going to be hosted by Louisville at the University of Louisville. And then in 2025, the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship will be hosted in Kansas City, hosted by the University of Kansas. So, Dave, I don't know if you're still in the chat room, but Kansas City is going to be hosting the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship, which is going to be some really cool stuff if you ask me. And that's really great for the city of Kansas City. I feel that the Kansas City Chiefs winning the NCAA championship meant kind of the world. If only that it was going to be played at Arrowhead Stadium, but they can't convert a football field to an NCAA volleyball gymnasium in the span of a month. And also, it would definitely be a burden to the Kansas City Chiefs in case they are still continuing their playoff run or their championship run with Patrick Mahomes. So, but that's for another day. And this is football we're talking about. We don't talk about football on here. We're talking about volleyball. But I digress. But that is some good stuff. I'm glad we do have some sites determined for the NCAA Men's and Women's Indoor Championship as well as the Beach Championship in the near future. Hopefully COVID will be fully gone. It should be, and I hope it does, and I hope it never comes back because it's kind of ruining everything. But I digress. But that's going to do it for tonight's episode of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me. If you all are listening live, I definitely do appreciate you tuning in. If you're listening on the replay, I definitely also appreciate you tuning in. It really means a lot. Thank you for supporting IE Sports Radio and for supporting Set Point, especially through 60 episodes, because like I said, I can't believe it's been 60 episodes. I want to keep Set Point going until it can't no more. So, on that note, it is time to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you all for joining me on Set Point on this beautiful Tuesday evening. I definitely appreciate you all tuning in. It really means the world to me. Hopefully I'll be back next week, but more likely I will be back. And we'll have some more powerful, intense, and strong matchups in the NCAA Women's Volleyball side of things. So for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have a great rest of the evening, and I shall see you all Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Good night, everybody.